Good morning, everyone, or whenever you're seeing this. Uh, this is going to be a little bit of a rambling video, I think, maybe. I've been having a lot of conversations with clients lately as the social media wars ramp up going into the election. And a lot of people seem to be latching on to this idea that social media is terrible, that it's tearing us apart, uh, that it's causing strife between family members and just putting wedges in our community. And then at the same time, you have people that are saying it's disconnecting people from each other, that people are becoming more isolated and less social, face-to-face interaction, and we're just losing our ability to communicate with each other as God intended, naturally. Now, part of both of those is true. There's always going to be the extremists on any spectrum. I'm probably one of them. I do spend, well, in my business as a massage therapist, I spend my work day one-on-one with individual clients for half an hour to 2 hours at a time, face-to-face. I do deep tissue work, so it's usually not the quiet, relaxing, just soft music tinkling. I'm usually beating the crap out of them, and they're not. I try and distract them with conversation. Plus, I've been doing this, doing massage for 27 years now. A little bored, so part of my job satisfaction is being able to interact with my clients, talk to them about their ideas, what they think is going on, and then, of course, push my own agenda onto them, which is either uh, uh, taken well or badly. I do have clients that come to me specifically to hear me talk about the stuff that I'm reading about online, because they have busy lives and they're doing other stuff. They have got 2.5 kids, dogs, husband, wife. They have a lot of stuff, so they don't have the motivation to do research or to sit in front of Facebook and know the ins and outs, or watch a bunch of YouTube videos on the latest and greatest robots that are going to come kill us all. So they like to hear about that, or so they told me. But in those interactions, I have some clients, and of course watching on YouTube and listening on Facebook, there are a lot of people that are saying it's complaining that they used to be able to go to a family get-together and just have family dinner, and all this politics stuff never came up, and you could just be friends. That's the thing. You could just be friends with people. We can't just be friends with people anymore because we know what they fucking think. I know that's you would think that in order to be friends with someone, that would include knowing what they think and how they feel about the universe around them. But there are a group of people complaining that it's detrimental. I have an argument, a thought that I've been bouncing off of clients and friends and stuff, that really the ones that do the most complaining about how disruptive social media is are the ones that have unpopular ideas about how society should work or function. Sexists, racists, homophobes, religious fanatics, uh, proponents of mysticisms, the Bigfoot trackers. And then you get the political ideas that aren't so popular. And my idea here, or the scenario, is classically the internet and social media has been the domain of nerds until very recently. I mean, all this stuff is so new. Cell phones only became, trendy maybe 5 years ago. I mean, before that, they've been adopting and been coming into the scene more and more as they get cheaper and have more functionality. But now they're ubiquitous. They are everywhere. Everyone has one. You can get a halfway decent smartphone for $50 that does the job. It gets you connected, everything you need to do. So it's become as common as a phone on the wall. Used to be. So what's happening now, I believe, is that you had a giant portion of the population that wasn't nerdy. So you have the nerds, which tend to be the progressives, the computer nerds, the science nerds. They use the internet because that's their passion. Technology is their passion. And suddenly, you have a giant chunk of the population that never cared before about technology or hated technology. The idea of it, the classic Luddites, they didn't know what it was. They knew it was going to be bad for them, and so they didn't want anything to do with it, and they poo-poo on it whenever they get a chance. But suddenly those people that were small town, they got most of their news from either television or their preacher or their local teacher or their local bar, the people that they knew in their local bar. So if you're in a smaller town, I've lived in a smaller town, it's pretty insulated and not worldly, as you might imagine. But suddenly those small groups of people are diving into the giant ocean of the rest of the world on a daily basis. And what they're being confronted with are ideas that throughout most of their upbringing, and definitely throughout their parents' upbringing, were ideas of the crazies, the radicals, the socialists, the communists, the queers, the weirdos, the hey, dirty atheists. I mean, all the all the tropes that they've grown up with suddenly are being thrown in their face all the time because the majority of people on the planet are way more progressive. The more you get introduced to ideas, the more ideas you have to draw from and reflect on your own and compare those. And so when you're brought up in a very small town conservative atmosphere and you're presented with transgender atheist makeup artists that are running for governor, whatever the craziest extreme, the opposite of conservative, in America at least, Christian, the opposite of conservative Christian is abhorrent to you. You see that as they're sinners. They're bringing down humanity, and that's the cause because queers are running for government. We have earthquakes and tornadoes. There is a giant group of people that believe that kind of mysticism. And now they have smartphones. They have supercomputers in their pockets, and they're pissed off and scared and angrily typing comments and making videos and pushing propaganda that isn't popular. And so they get attacked. And you see that in government. The conservatives know what's coming, and they're doing what they think they should be doing, cheating, largely, the gerrymandering, putting out propaganda against progressive thought, downplaying progressives, saying they're sinners, I guess is the basic idea. They they don't have the family values that the conservative party is pushing. Now the problem is with social media, lying and cheating, you get caught because you have millions of people that are scrutinizing you, and conservatives don't like that. So you get a lot of people arguing on Facebook, and the ones that are arguing are, of course, the conservatives that are fighting their position are the loudest, most extreme, most prolific, and then you add on to that bots, Russian bots particularly, but it's not just the Russians, but the bots that are working to disrupt life in another country for their own benefit. The more chaos here, the more we fight ourselves, the more they're able to get away with, because we're distracted with punching ourselves in the face. But I see, my sanity is, I see the more that people are arguing on Facebook, the more we're communicating with each other. And even though it seems vicious, seems petty, it seems like we're going in circles, and hate crimes are on the rise. And I do see this as the animal in a corner that knows it's dead, and this is its last gasp. It's fighting for the end. It's dead. It knows it, and it's doing what it can, and that is the conservative way of life, the conservative thinking. The conservative politicians are fighting for their lives, and they're going to lose. So the more we argue with them, and it's not just the thing I keep in mind, like I said, this is going to be a rambling video. The thing I try and keep in mind is the person I'm arguing with isn't necessarily the person I'm trying to convince of my arguments. Usually, if I'm arguing with somebody on Facebook, particularly on Facebook, they're an extremist, and there's nothing I can do to change their mind. Every argument I give them that's valid or logical will make them more angry and frustrated. And neither one of us, of course, is going to change our position, but the people reading or watching the exchange are not themselves being personally confronted. So when you're watching a fight, you can more gauge who's winning and who's losing, who has the better technique. If you're going for fighting, who has the better arguments of without feeling personally attacked. And so I think that's important. The person you're confronting is already going to have their barriers up. They already are putting up their arguments, their logic, in defense of you. So you're less likely to be effective against them. But it's the people that are reading it. And I have a few people that watch my videos and read my comments. And largely it's people on my side versus the people on their side. But there's that small contingent of people that are just reading and scrolling and taking it all in. And I believe, since I believe my arguments are better, and I believe I have a more fuller understanding of where technology is going versus where society has been and how we need to change. The whole capitalism versus socialism uh, argument. I think I have the better idea, the better knowledge. So, and the polls bear that out, where the majority was like 2-1 are progressive in America generally. Uh, More largely 35 and under. So the people that are going to be here in the next 10 years are overwhelmingly progressive. And that's just the direction that we're going now with society and technology. So the more I feel the depression, I feel the anxiety, especially having Trump in office and these gross, corrupt politicians that are just the worst of us, that have cheated their way to the top, or been paid corporate liars that are not necessarily lying because they're paid, but because of their ignorance and their conservatism and their viewpoints. The corporations, the highest bidders, buy or pay to have those type of thinking individuals rise up and fight for corporations, which is what they're going to do, because they're not actually people. They're a conglomerate. They're a policy guide of a fake entity. So it doesn't care about the environment. It doesn't care about happiness. It's a profit uh, generation thing. So it's doing this thing, but I in an effort to kind of offset my depression on all the arguing, because it's exhausting, is that I know that the confrontations we are seeing online are moving us in a direction that are positive and are more educational. Because Facebook, it's like a giant bar. You walk into a bar, you can hear conversations all around, and sometimes you have the loudest jackasses in the corner uh, just being offensive. And in a bar situation, you can't go up to them and confront them without risking being punched in the face. But on Facebook, on YouTube, there's less likely of being punched in the face, so you're now able to speak up, and ideas are your weapons. Words are your weapons, instead of having to pretend that the good ideas and the good guys are always better at fighting than the bad guys. So I think largely it's positive. I was just rattling this morning. I've had a lot of coffee, and I haven't done a rambling video about my thoughts in a while, so I thought I'd put it out there. Peace. I know it didn't make any sense.